Mike Radich here, and I'm now joined on the phone by Legacy FC heavyweight champion Cody East. Cody, how are you?
Good, man. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. Cody, has the UFC contacted you yet? That performance last time out back on October 17th at Legacy FC 36 against Vernon White to claim the Legacy FC heavyweight championship. I saw you fight before in the past, but I've never been more impressed by a fight than this last time out against Vernon Lewis. You were on point, you were exciting, you finished it with a devastating flurry at the end there when you had him pressed up against the cage. Has the UFC contacted your manager? Has the UFC been in contact with you since that fight? Because I'm surprised that it hasn't already happened yet.
Yeah, I haven't heard nothing yet. I'm waiting for the call. I'm ready. I'm hoping this should be the fight. If not, whatever they want me to do, send me someone tougher. Then whoever they want me to beat, I'll beat them. It's just, that guy who Legacy handed me, they wanted me to beat him. They said he couldn't be knocked out. I knocked him out first round. I can't really say it was an easy fight because he had his challenges, but I think I look good enough to show that I can compete in the UFC.
Mm-hmm. Overall, how pleased were you with your performance in the fight?
I was happy. I felt like I could have probably pushed it a little bit more, but that guy kind of he baits you in a little bit. But I feel like my striking, I worked a lot with Alistair over him for that fight, and he helped me to learn how to pace myself more and pick my shots to not get in such a rush, not to look for the knockout that it'll come to you.
Mm-hmm. Now, there was a point in the fight where he was pressed up against the cage and he really wasn't doing anything. He was just kind of covering up. He wasn't trying to get on his bike and get away from you, and he wasn't swinging back. Do you think at some point in the fight you broke him? At that point in the fight where he wasn't doing any movement and wasn't really doing anything except covering up, do you think he wanted out?
I think he was done. I think I broke him when I caught him with a really hard leg kick that buckled his knee, and after that, I think he was done. He had a hard head, but after hitting him in the leg like that, the look on his face just looked like he didn't like it.
Mm-hmm. Now, before the fight even started, there was a little bit of chaos because the previous fight to yours, the co-main event between Damasio Page and Brian Hall, the ambulance had to take Brian Hall to the hospital, and they didn't have another ambulance on site, so the commission was waiting for the ambulance to arrive, and there was a little bit of a delay in starting your fight. So I'm just curious, number one, did that affect you at all in the fight? And number two, have you ever had a situation like this take place before? Obviously, you fought in some local shows, some small venues, some smaller promotions. Has there ever been any kind of chaos like this before? Has there ever been some sort of delay in previous fights that you've had?
Yeah, I had something pretty crazy happen. I fought in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and my way out to the fight, someone actually stole the ambulance.
Really?
Yeah, they actually stole the ambulance, so that was like, we had to go back into the locker room and everything and wait for the other one to get there. It's pretty crazy, yeah. I guess they're waiting outside, someone broke into it and took off in it.
Oh.
So, it was pretty crazy.
I wasn't expecting that answer, but I can...
No, it's a true story. It really happened. Someone stole an ambulance.
Okay. Now, I'm sure when you were training for this fight, I'm sure you thought that you were going to be able to finish him, but did you think the fight was going to go that way? Did you think it was going to be a first-rounder?
I was prepared to go farther, but I honestly believed it would be first round.
Okay. And it seems like, back-to-back fights here, the Estevez-Jones fight ended similarly to this one, and also this Vernon Lewis one ended similar, where you have your opponent pressed up against the cage and you're just landing bombs on them. Is that the worst spot to be in when fighting you?
Yeah, anywhere. If I get someone to stay in the middle with me in exchange, it'd be a bad spot, but once I hit somebody, they run back as far as they can until they get stuck in there. They can't get out. The cage isn't holding them in there, so... But anywhere is going to be a bad spot, honestly. My ground game's got a lot better, and I guess the cage is bad for people because there's nothing you can do. They can't generate no power back. They can't run. They're stuck there. I have the free will to do what I want with them.
Mm-hmm. What do you think his game plan was coming into that fight? When you looked at his skills and looked at your skills, what do you think his camp was telling him to do against you in that fight? I don't
really know. I guess I'm just speaking weather. I've seen a lot of his fights. He's up weathering the storm, not in a big shot. I guess he's probably just planning on for me to come out hard, for me to throw a bunch of punches and get tired. I don't think he expected me to hit as hard as I did, because he's absorbed a lot of punches, but I don't think he's ever been hit the way that I hit him. So that threw his plan off right away.
Okay. Now, I'm just curious, how did this deal with Legacy all come together?
Well, with Holly Holm signed to the UFC, and Legacy was coming to Albuquerque, they needed I fought co-main event to Holly before, and they've seen that I can bring in a lot of people, so they, working with Frescas, it was Frescas' first time having a card without Holly, and they seen what I could do, so then my name got thrown in there with Winklejohn, and during Holly's last fight, the guys from Legacy had came out, and they had seen me sparring with Travis Brown and a couple of guys, and they were pretty impressed, so that was kind of the beginning of it there, and originally they wanted me to fight for the Legacy 205 title, but I didn't really want to cut the weight.
Mm-hmm. Is Lenny your manager?
No, he's not.
Oh. Who is your manager?
I don't have a manager.
Oh, okay. A little while back, you said one of your goals was to claim the King of the Cage Super Heavyweight title, the King of the Cage Heavyweight title, the King of the Cage Cruiserweight title, and the King of the Cage Light Heavyweight title. Now, I'm just curious, why did you decide to give up on that goal and sign with Legacy? Why did you decide to not complete the set? You already had one belt from King of the Cage. Why did you decide to stop pursuing that goal and sign with Legacy?
Well, they didn't fight me in King of the Cage for a year. No one would fight me. No one wanted to fight me for my belt. I had a fight lined up with Wes Combs for the 230-pound belt, and I was almost at the airport to leave, and his manager called and said he went missing. They couldn't find him. He skipped out on the fight, and then they wouldn't fight me. I can't really explain what happened. I mean, it was almost a year. I just sat around and never got to defend my belt, just waiting for someone to fight. I'll fight anybody, you know what I mean? And they just never fought me until my contract ended. I won the belt in June, and I never fought with King of the Cage again.
Right.
Well, I haven't fought with King of the Cage since June.
Right.
So my next fight was against Stephen Jones, but that wasn't King of the Cage.
Right. Yes. Correct. Mm-hmm.
So I had since I won my belt, I had 7 more months under my contract, and I never got to fight. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I was willing to fight. I mean, a rematch with Tony Lopez. I'll go down to 230, whatever they wanted. Defend my belt. Somebody come fight me for a belt. I was willing to fight anybody. I want to stay active. I mean, not fighting for as long as I did was pretty rough. And then they didn't let me fight nowhere they weren't fighting me, but they weren't letting me fight in another organization either. So it was pretty rough.
Mm-hmm. How do you pay your bills with a layoff like that?
I work too. I do construction. I lay block, and my wife works, and I got sponsors and stuff to help. So that all helps. I got some pretty good sponsors, local sponsors that take pretty good care of me.
Okay. Now, Michael Chiavello, one of the commentators for Access TV, who commentated your fight back in October, he mentioned that you were sponsored by Popeyes. Now, is this Popeyes the fast food chain, or is this Popeyes just a local spot in New Mexico?
No, Popeyes Chicken.
The nationwide Popeyes?
Yeah, Popeyes Chicken.
Okay. I'm a big Popeyes fan, so what's your order? What are you getting when you go there?
I like the black chicken. Not the fried, but it's I guess it's fried, but not breaded.
The blackened tenders?
Yeah, those.
Me too. That's my favorite.
Delicious.
Oh, love it. What are the sides?
I get the red beans and rice.
Okay.
And then the potatoes with what is it? I think down here they have green chili on it.
Okay. What kind of dessert?
Well, I like the fudge. What is it? The fudge. The little fudge cake they have.
The Mississippi mud pie?
Yeah.
This is like my order. I was going to say all this. This is crazy. We got to eat together sometime.
You know what you're talking about, man.
This is great. I'm from Michigan, and they stopped making them. I don't know why. One day I went there, got 2, and then the next time I went back a week later, and they said they stopped serving them. So I was all depressed. But yeah, that's the best.
That's good stuff.
The blackened tenders and those biscuits. Oh my God! You gotta always start off with the biscuit. I've learned that you gotta eat the biscuit first, because once it gets cold, it gets hard. You gotta always start off with that.
Exactly. That's what you do right there. That's my technique.
Yeah, that's great. I love Popeyes. I'm not really a big fan of the breaded stuff, but the blackened tenders. Oh my God, they're great.
Me and my coaches were talking. We were just poking fun. We're saying we should have a commercial where I was in a fight, getting beat up a little bit, come back to the corner, my coach could slip me a piece of chicken through the cage, eat that, and get that Popeye steak.
That's a great commercial. Why don't they do that?
That'd be cool.
Yeah, that's
like
great.
That, you know what I mean?
That's great.
Like the corner coach, I need it. I need it, coach. There you go.
That's great. That's great. You know what? They should cast me as the Popeyes employee. Like, I'd be giving your coach the bag of the Popeyes, and then he'd be feeding it to you. We should do that.
I want the whole serving, bro. You might take half of it. I don't know. You like your Popeyes.
No, I love it. I just had it last Saturday. It's great stuff.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's great. And when I found out you were sponsored by them, I'm like, all right, we got to go over this because I just love this stuff. Now, with you eating all this Popeyes, and I know you said that Legacy offered you a title shot at light heavyweight, what weight class are you going to fight in going forward? Are you going to drop down to 205, or are you going to just stay at heavyweight?
I'll say I weigh 260, but I could cut, because I cut like 20 pounds for my fight just to feel a little bit lighter. I walk around at about 260, and I don't go to 205 because I don't see the benefit in it, because to me, in general, 205 pounders are better than heavyweights, except for the top guys, but most heavyweights are big guys, they hit hard, and they're pretty one-dimensional. 205 pounders are athletes. So it's not just once you get to the top, it's a tough fight. All 205 pounders, for the most part, are more athletic and a tougher fight, and I give away a lot of my speed advantage and stuff, so I don't see the benefit, really.
Mm-hmm. How much do you weigh? 235, 240, something like that?
Yeah, I walk around at 260.
Okay.
The time I fight, I usually weigh 230, 240.
Okay. That's the perfect weight, in my opinion. That's the perfect weight to be for a heavyweight, because you have some quickness and you have some cardio, but you also have some power, and I think that's the perfect weight. A lot of these guys think bigger is better, but we've seen, history has told us that if you're in that 230 to 240 range, that's the perfect weight to be at.
Yeah, I heard the UFC was going to start a division for 230 or something like that.
A cruiserweight. Yeah, they've talked about it a lot in the past.
Yeah, that'd be a beast. That's where all the studs would be at.
Yeah, definitely. The guys who are smaller heavyweights and guys who are tired of making 205, I think it'd be a perfect weight class for guys like that. But anyways, Cody, where do you train at a majority of the time? Because obviously you get credited a lot for training at Jackson's, but according to some of the databases, you have multiple training spots. So how much time are you actually at Jackson's, and what is your main gym?
I do all my sparring out of Jackson's, and I do a lot of mix with Winklejohn. He's one of my striking coaches. So I'm usually at Jackson's 3 times a week, but I have a boxing gym down here, Jack Candelaria Community Center. Mm-hmm. But it's a nice boxing gym, and I've got some boxing coaches like Manuel and Tim. All that, they do my hands. They're just boxers. They don't really mess with MMA, but I've got them to work with me in my boxing, and I feel like it's made a difference. And then my head striking coach is Paul Cadea. He's comes from a Kaja Kimbo background. I ran into him at I had broken my leg, and I was taking some time off, and I went to a community center, and I see some guy teaching like a class for like old ladies and people trying to get them in shape, and I was watching them show them how to kick the bag, and I was like, well, this guy looks like he might know something. So I started talking to him, and we ended up developing a friendship, and then he ended up being my coach. I mean, he's really good. He's taught me a lot. And then I got a wrestling coach too, so I've got a lot of different things going on.
Okay. Now, at Jackson's, there's obviously a great stable for you to work with. So I'm just curious, I got to know, what's it like training with those guys on a day-to-day basis when you're sparring with them?
Oh, it's awesome. I mean, I've been there for a long time. I sparred everybody, that has came in there. I've helped them all get ready for the fights, and I know I can hold my own with anybody in the world. I see it every day that I'm right there with the best in the world. I just need the opportunity. Mm-hmm. It's cool. It's after sparring with those guys, you get into these other fights, and everything just seems slow motion. It's just I spar with such high level guys that when I go to these fights, it just, not to put my opponents down, but it almost seems like that's the sparring. My fights are almost like the sparring, and my sparring is like fights, because It's got me and these guys going to war in there.
Right. I hear you. By the
time I get to my fights, like, wow, this is pretty laid back. This guy's not really doing much compared to what I just went through last week. This is easy.
Okay. I hear you. The training is hard, so the fight is easy. I got it. Yeah. Now, who's your favorite guy to spar with? Like, if you have your choice, and when you look in the room and see guys, all right, this is the guy I want to work with. I know I'll benefit a lot from going from him. Obviously, they're all great fighters, but if everyone's available, who's the guy you're picking?
Alistair.
Okay. Why?
Yeah, Alistair, he's just, outside the ring, inside, he's a really nice guy, and he's a killer at practice. He don't play around. There's a lot of guys at Jackson, they spar, but he likes to spar the way I like to spar. Mm-hmm. We fight, but he's also got such a wealth of knowledge that he's willing to pass it on to me and teach a lot of stuff that he knows, a lot of tricks, and the guy has a lot of experience. Mm-hmm. So he's helping me a lot with my career. He's trying to get me into that glory kickboxing. He wants me to get into there. And the first time I sparred him, he didn't know who I was, and they put him to spar with me. Well, before we sparred, the two guys he sparred, he took them out pretty quick. So they put me in there. He had no idea who I was. He just thought I was some local bum, probably. Mm-hmm. And we sparred, and after he's like, "Man, who are you, man? Are you in the UFC?" He's like, I was like, "No, dude, I'm just a fan for Keenan Cage." So after that, he's been really trying to help me get into a real big organization.
Mm-hmm. Now, let's just say the UFC offers you a contract, and let's say Glory offers you a contract, but it's double the money or even triple the money that the UFC is giving you. Would you leave MMA for kickboxing?
It would. I don't know. I'd probably stick with MMA. It'd be close. I got a promoter next week that wants to meet with me. He doesn't want me to do MMA no more. He wants me to just do strictly boxing. Mm-hmm. And so I've got an offer that they want me to stop doing MMA and just box. But I got to see what kind of money they're talking about, and because the money is still in boxing. The big money is still there, especially for heavyweight.
Right. And there's not many American heavyweights, or really worldwide there aren't that many heavyweights. Klitschko, he's the world champion, but no one knows who he is. You show 100 people his picture, maybe one person knows who he is. That's
what I don't understand why they have so much. Where's the money? Well, maybe you can answer this for me. Where does the money in boxing come from? They're selling out the same venues that the UFC is. How come they pay so much more money?
I think it's because it's embedded in the minds of people. Boxing has been around for over 100 years. MMA is still very new. I think that has to be it. There's a lot of older fans in boxing that are passing it on to a younger generation, whereas in MMA, it's a younger generation who's discovering it for the first time. There's a lot more young fans in MMA than young fans in boxing. So maybe 20, 30 years down the line, it'll be the people who are kids now, they'll have kids, and then the money will start to come. And that's just my theory. I think it's just boxing has been around for such a long time that there's more history to it.
There's a bunch of old rich guys pumping money into it.
Right.
In the end, that's what it comes down to.
Right. Definitely. That's it. And plus,
I wouldn't mind. I like boxing too. I wouldn't mind boxing and being successful boxing, and then transferring into the UFC. That way, I start out in the UFC making money. I don't have to work my way up. If I come from high up in the boxing world, if I can win a title, then when I go to the UFC, I'll be straight in the picture right away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Kind of like Alistair. He won his kickboxing tournaments and all this stuff, so that gave him right away. He was set high up in the UFC.
Right. It's always better to be acquired than it is to be homegrown. It's always better to be the guy who's doing big things in another organization than a guy who, he started from the bottom and then he worked his way up. It's always better to be the guy who's already established.
Yeah, no, definitely. There's just so many ways it can go. I don't know how it's going to get there, but I'm going to be there. I'll be there one day.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Obviously, you're on their radar. Anytime someone gets a big win on one of those shows, whether it's Legacy, RFA, I guess MFC, any of those Access TV shows, the UFC is looking. But also Bellator and World Series of Fighting, they're trying to steal guys so they can bolster their roster. Right now, World Series of Fighting is very, very shallow at heavyweight. Salim Al-Rama, he's the heavyweight champion, but he really doesn't have anyone to fight.
Did he ever fight Lopez?
No. Nope, never fought him. I think he.
For the belt.
Yeah, I think he got out of that fight and then signed with World Series of Fighting, and so that fight never happened.
I would love to fight him.
Yeah, and then Bellator is obviously very shallow. They have a couple of big names, but
they offered me a contract with World Series of Fighting, but I didn't like it.
Yeah. Okay.
World Series of Fighting, it was too long. It was like 3 years, and it was only like 4 fights.
Right. Okay.
It was something crazy. I mean, there was guaranteed, not guaranteed what they said, well, if you win, we'll add more, but on paper, it just wasn't what I wanted money-wise, and I have been advised by a lot of people that you get stuck there and you don't get to really fight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Steve Carl, he used to be their welterweight champion. He said something very similar to that because he had a contract with them, and they kept putting him on the shelf because they have every weight class, and they have women's fights too, and multiple weight classes in the women's division as well. So that's a lot of fighters, and you have to have a lot of shows to keep up with that, and their show frequency for World Series of Fighting is not good at all to manage their fighters.
They put a lot of big numbers down on paper, but they don't fight you.
Mm-hmm.
So you get excited when you see the money they're offering you, but then you end up sitting on the bench for a year. You don't get to fight, so It's not really worth it.
Right. It truly is win or go home, because if you lose your fight, you're going to be on the shelf for probably a year. That's just how it is with the way their shows are. Now,
if they offer me a fight with Orama, I'm ready.
Yeah. That was going to be what I was kind of building up to, because, there's really no one for him to fight. I mean, Derek Mayman was the top guy at World Series of Fighting, and he just beat him in 40 seconds. So obviously there's no rematch to do. And the other heavyweights there, Dave Huckabee and Ray Sefo and some of those guys, they're not really in a position to call for a title shot. So that's what I was alluding to. Maybe World Series of Fighting might, come in with a big offer, because there's really no one in their heavyweight division to challenge for the belt. And they have a champion. The belt's not vacant. So I thought, hey, maybe they were going to come in and try to steal you, maybe make you a big offer.
We'll see. I've been in contact with them before, so let's see if maybe they come with something a little better. But I want the UFC or Bellator. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I'd be willing to do like a short-term contract just to go win the belt there and maybe prove to UFC. I'll do like a 6-month contract, let me win that belt and defend it, and then have a UFC buyout or something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't want to get stuck over there, but I'll take that belt and add it to my collection.
Right. I hear you. Now, Cody, if you had to put money on it right now, where would your next fight be? Will it be in Legacy defending the heavyweight crown? Will it be in another organization? Will it be in the UFC? If you had to put money down right now, where are you fighting next?
Well, I have one fight already lined up for a different organization. So, besides that one, I mean, I'm supposed to fight January 20th or something here in Albuquerque again. Legacy let me have that fight on my contract, so I got that fight lined up. But I'm thinking Legacy again. I've heard that Legacy's having a kickboxing tournament.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Pat Barry is going to be in it. He's going to be fighting in January for Legacy.
Well, how can I get into this thing? I mean, I would like to fight him. Who is Pat Barry fighting?
Pat Barry, he's fighting an American guy. I really don't know much about him. I don't know what kind of shows he's fought for in the past. He's an American guy. I don't really know much about him. All I really know is that he's American, but that's about it. I never really heard of the guy. Maybe he fought for Glory, maybe he fought for K1. I'm not 100% sure, but I know he's fighting an American guy. I'm blanking on his name right now. I'm sure it'll come to me a little bit later, but I don't know the guy's name. But he's fighting an American guy in January. I believe the date is January 16th. He's fighting for Legacy Kickboxing 1, and it's against this American guy. I don't know his name.
He got knocked out. He got knocked out pretty good in Glory, didn't he?
Yeah, yep. Zach Mukase knocked him out. Yeah, it was a devastating KO, and that guy's actually fighting this weekend. Friday night. He's fighting in a 4-man, one-night contender tournament, and whoever wins that tournament is getting a shot at the title.
Oh, nice. You gotta get into these things, huh?
Yeah, I definitely think you could do it. There's also Lion Fight Muay Thai. With your style, I think you'd be a good fit for them.
See, I'm so much. I've never shown I'm not trying to brag on myself or nothing, but I've never got to settle into a fight and fight as really as good as I can. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Right.
I have so much more in my arsenal that I use at practice on high level guys. I just haven't got it to come out during the fight yet for some reason. I should really be devastating people.
Right. One thing I wanted to ask you, and this might be a weird question, but you have a lot of first-round finishes. Are there any of these fights where you wished it would have gone longer? I know it's a weird question, but are there any fights that come to mind?
Yeah. It's weird because I want them to go longer, but I don't, because I want to knock them out quick, but I also want to fight. I mean, I want someone to stay in there and let's fight. I mean, I want someone that's going to stand in there and let's put on a show, let's put on a fight, and then I'm going to knock you out. Let's give the fans 2 or 3 rounds, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always looking for the fast, but I want to fight too. I want to be tested.
Who's been your toughest fight to date? Obviously, nothing against Vernon Lewis. I'm sure he's a nice guy, and I'm sure he's a better fighter than what he showed on October 17th. But that really wasn't a test. I mean, that's just my opinion. But I think he wanted out the first time you tagged him. But that's my opinion, and nothing against the guy. But I don't think that was really a test. So who's been your toughest fight? Is it Tony Lopez? Is it Nick Rossborough? Who's been your toughest fight?
Nick Rossborough was tough. I mean, he was a tough guy. He broke my leg in the first round, so I couldn't really do much. He caught me with a kick in the first round, and I broke my leg, so I could have done more. But he was tough, durable. But my toughest fight was Tony. I mean, he kicked my ass. I took that fight at a short notice. I was doing good. I gassed out, and he beat me up. I would love to fight him again.
Now, you mentioned a fight that you have lined up. Do you know the opponent right now? Can you say who the opponent is?
I don't know. I forgot his name. He's a kickboxer. I think he's 6-1 or 7-1. I forgot his name. He's from Wisconsin.
Okay. I don't remember if you said or not, but what's the date on that fight? When will that take place?
In January.
Okay. I see. Cody, last question. How did you get your nickname, the Freight Train?
Well, my first practice when the first time I really hit somebody, he told me that it felt like he had gotten hit by a train. So my coaches, we just started calling me the Freight Train.
All right. Simple.
My other coaches tell me I'm like a train. It takes me a while to warm up. They got to throw some coal in there too.
Right.
It takes me a while to get going. I'm like an old train. But once I get some momentum going, it gets dangerous.
Right. Well, Cody, real quick before I let you go, do you have any sponsors you'd like to thank, and is there anything you'd like to say to the fans? I know we already touched on Popeyes. We gave them a great plug, but is there anything you'd like to say to the fans and other sponsors you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, Chopper Hearst, so thank you guys, and Soul and Vine, Roll 92, M&M Auto, Paradise Village, all you guys, all the fans, thank you guys for supporting me, supporting the sport, and thank you for the interview. And to my wife and my daughter and my baby on the way, I love you guys. And that's it, really. Mm-hmm. All my coaches. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how I can get to them, but the legacy, I want to defend my belt. If I have to defend my belt, I want to defend it against Tony Lopez. I want a rematch against him and give him a shot at the belt.
And Tony Lopez is always campaigning on Facebook for a fight, and I'm sure since he holds a win over you, I'm sure he'd be more than happy to take you up on that offer. So hopefully we can get that fight done. I really want to see that fight again. I think Tony Lopez is a really good fighter. I think he's very underrated. And
he's very underrated, but he's very hot and cold too, though.
Right. Very inconsistent. I agree.
He's weird. You can't explain him. I mean, he loses fights that he should lose, he wins, and the ones he should win, he loses. He's underrated. He's very good. I mean, I've gotten a million times better than I was when I fought him the first time. I'm a lot better, but it's fighting that guy is never going to be an easy fight.
Definitely,
I don't care who fights him. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a fight.
Mm-hmm. And he's very deceptive. You think he's not really that fast. His strikes look like they're in slow motion, but then they're landing very fast. It's very weird.
Long, he doesn't look like he hits hard, but he's very dense. And it's weird. He's a weird guy. I mean, he's someone different. He's someone hard to train with. His punches come at weird angles. His kicks come at weird angles. And it's almost like the punches are slow, but you block and then you let go, and then they come in. You mean it's weird.
Yeah. He's a very awkward fighter in a good way. He's very unorthodox and really good on the ground too. His submission game is very underrated. A lot of people just look at him as a one-dimensional striker, but his ground game is solid.
No, he is. I mean, I respect Tony as a fighter, and I would just like to fight him again. I mean, I would like to test myself, and I think now's the time. I mean, I have the belt for legacy, so. He wants to fight. I'm willing to fight him. You mean just make it happen?
Yeah, sign me up. I would love to see a rematch between you and Tony Lopez. I think that's a great fight. Love watching both of you guys fight. So sign me up for it. If Mick Maynard and Legacy put that fight on, I'll definitely tune in on Access TV. I'd love to see a rematch of that fight. And Cody, thank you for taking the time to talk. I really appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Have a good one.